Recently, I decided to read Batman comics because I usually just watched movies or animated movies for Batman. I decided to read comics because I thought I was a fan of him, but the more I heard about what happens in the Batman lore, the more I realized that I really was out of touch with the character's whole universe. Do not judge me for this, but that realization came when I saw people wanting a Tim Drake solo series. Now, from my knowledge of Tim Drake, I always saw him as the lamest Robin. I usually just saw him as an in between Jason Todd and Damian. Never really thought of him as somebody that would be necessary in the Batman lore. Now, hold on. I don't think that anymore. Even though I haven't really read a comic that would really change my mind, I've seen him in some things, and I'm like, okay, I could give him a chance. I can see where people are coming from. Now, Batman is one of those characters where when you want to start reading him and you go to look up a list of what to read, you either get this whole thing because he has too many comics, or you get Long Halloween. Those are the only options. So I decided to bring down my search to a more compact idea. One thing I like about Batman is the detective aspect of Batman. I really liked that they did have a detective Batman in the Batman, and I wanted more stories like that. So I decided to look for more comics that had that mystery aspect to it. But I didn't only just read those type of comics. I also read some other comics that were highly recommended. I saw this image on Reddit, and this is my guide. That's all I can say. And out of all these comics, I've only read these amounts. And I wanted to talk about all the comics I've read while I'm reading them. I still have a lot more to read. At the moment, I'm reading Grant Morrison's run, but I thought it would be helpful for someone who is also starting to read Batman to have somewhere to get a guide for when new readers are also reading Batman. Okay, the first one I read was Batman Ego. I really liked Batman Ego. Batman Ego is a really good comic. The art style, I really like the art style. It doesn't really have much of a story. It has more of a thesis statement, which is the psychology of Batman and the balance between Batman and Bruce Wayne. That's mostly what Batman Ego is. I wouldn't really recommend this for anybody that's coming in to read for any excitement in Batman. I really think this is more for fans that are really thinking a lot about Batman's mental state while he's fighting crime and why Batman thinks the way he does. After this, I saw on Reddit there were a few comics that people recommended that were good detective stories, so I picked up Batman Venom. Now, this comic to me is a huge pile of shit. It's just complete garbage. I thought it had an interesting beginning because it starts with Batman failing to save someone and being angry that he wasn't strong enough to do the job. But then later down in the comic, starts taking steroids, and I don't think this is not my Batman. Now, after the huge pile of shit that was Batman Venom, I found some good shit, and that was Batman Black Mirror, or The Black Mirror. This comic has some of the best mysteries and detective arcs I have read so far. And it's not even Bruce Wayne that's the main Batman, it's Dick Grayson. This is one of the legacy characters taking up the Batman mantle that I would be so happy with. And his Batman, even though he's very different in tone, is still so good at being Batman. He makes more jokes on the fly, and his mental commentaries or his monologues, internal monologues, they're not as good as Bruce's, they're not as edgy, but it still has a lot of character, it still has a lot of dick in it, and I like some dick. We also get the menace, that is James Jr. I'm not going to talk much about him, but all I have to say is, Jim, I'm sorry, bro. Good story, good arcs. Next up was another one that was recommended because of its detective mystery storyline, and this one is the most detective one I have read so far. It's Batman Broken City. Now, if you're looking for a Batman story where it's not all about the Joker or Two-Face or Mr. Freeze, this is more of a grounded street level story. This is just it balls to the wall mystery a whole way through. Everything is just mystery. We do get some action, but most of the time the action isn't really what you're coming here for. I'll say if you're reading this for the mystery. And Batman kind of sells. He kind of sells multiple times in this comic, but I'm just going to chalk it up to it being all bad luck. It's all bad luck. Because my Bruce could never do what this Bruce was doing. Now, this was one I already knew about before going down this journey of reading Batman. And to be honest, it has a very high status in the Batman comic realm. But I think the hype really killed this one for me, and I thought it was kind of disappointing. It's Batman Arkham Asylum. I know. I've seen a lot of people hype up this comic, and I see the hype, but I feel like because I already had such wide expectations for this coming into it and seeing what it is, it's not as much of a complex story that I thought it would be. It got described as something else to me, so I was expecting something completely different than what I got. I knew there was a lot of psychology of Batman and his villains in this, but I was expecting a way more in-depth breakdown of each villain than the more broad method they used to cover them here. We only really get we only really get a lot of Batman, Joker, and Two-Face. We don't really get much of anyone else. It's just it's okay. Like, I would still rate it pretty highly because the art is really good, and for what we do get, this is pretty well written. Now, this is the last one I read, and I just have to say, it must have been something guiding me because I saved the best for last. Batman Dark Victory. This is a sequel to The Long Halloween. I didn't know it was a sequel to The Long Halloween before reading it. I just saw a recommendation saying this was a good one, and it was a good one. From the jump, the art, the writing, it gets you. It's a perfect mesh of just Batman. This gives me the same vibe as the animated series, like just the gothic vibe the animated series has at times. This gives me that and more. And the mystery in this story was so well done, because most of the time I could about predict what any mystery is going to or where any mystery is going, but this one genuinely surprised me. It's because it's a sequel to The Long Halloween. We get a lot with the Falcones. We get Mario. We get Alberto, and we get Sophia. Oh no, that's the wrong picture. It's not? No! What it is, my girl? Sophia! Sophia! Along with the mystery, they also managed to put in some things that I wouldn't have expected to see in the story. I really didn't expect to see Robin come up at any point, but this was actually a really good Robin, and his origin story was done pretty nicely. We also got Travis Hunter as the Joker. But honestly, this story managed to keep me engaged throughout its whole run, from the stuff with Harvey Dent and how that continues after The Long Halloween, to the stuff with Jim Gordon, and the stuff with Batman. Just a generally well-rounded comic book and a well-rounded story, with the mystery being resolved in a very satisfying way, and a way you probably would not guess. And if you do, how about you go outside and make some like real accomplishments? But yeah, that's all the Batman comics I had read during my Batman journey. I still have Grant Morrison's run to get through, and when I'm done with that, I would make a video on that as well.